The Anbernic RG Rotate is becoming one of my favourite devices, but as it runs Android, I thought, why don't I check out some of those Android front ends that I've been testing out on the Odin and the Thor and see how they stack up on this square screen. Okay, so one thing I did forget to cover last time was Anbernic does actually provide a built-in launcher, and you can access launchers by clicking this little button on the side. So this is just the default Anbernic one. There's not much to it. It's not great. It just boots into Retrohrai. It's fine, but that is not why we're here. Let's take a look at some of the more exciting options available. So just a note on that, if you are using an RG Rotate, if you go to your settings and then if you scroll down to your handheld game console settings, if you click your quick launcher, then this is how you can remap that side button. So when you press and hold this button, it'll boot into your chosen front end, and then when you press and hold it again, it will exit it completely. So we're going to be looking at these 8 front ends. So we're going to start with Cannoli, and we're just going to work alphabetically. So I've quickly set these up. I've not done a great deal with them. I've just done a very kind of rough setup on each of them. So first up, Cannoli. Cannoli is very, very interesting because it's basically a homage to MinUI, or if you've used NextUI, a lot of this might seem familiar. So very, very simple, very easy to use. Does look very good on the square display, but not the most feature rich, and also it's kind of missing a little bit of that visual pizzazz. But if you want something that's very, very simple and just does the job, then you can't go wrong with Cannoli. Having said that, my main problem with Cannoli is the fact that it has its own internal file structure. So if you want to add your ROMs to Cannoli and you've already got them set up in your own folders, you have to manually move them over to Cannoli. Now they do provide this thing called Nonna's Kitchen, which is basically an FTP server. So you can access this from your desktop or your laptop and then just drag your ROMs in remotely. Next up, we have Cocoon, which is obviously probably the most popular front end, especially on the AY and Thor. So this is running in the single screen mode. So if you've not seen the single screen mode, it basically takes the kind of dual screen display and does kind of crush them down a bit. Obviously, you do lose a little bit of functionality. So this is the main kind of theme setup I use. Just a note on this as well, this is the 3.0 beta. So if you're using the RG Rotate and you download the latest version that's publicly available, it's going to look a little bit more cramped. So this is a little tease of what's to come, especially when it comes to the RG Rotate and single screen devices. So I can go into a system and then I've got my lists of games there, or you can have a grid style and you get a nice little bit of artwork at the top and your logos. You don't quite get the full experience as you would on a dual screen device, but it looks great and it works. We've also got these nice little widgets. We've got Picnic, which is for our game screenshots. Flutter, or Flutter Type as it was formerly known. This is great on a dual screen because it's basically a dedicated keyboard. Doesn't have much use on this device, but good to know that it does technically still work. We have Log, which is, as it says on the tin, it's a log, so it tracks your games. And then we have a little settings widget. Now, as I said earlier, if you don't have this version, if you're not on their Ko-Fi, and if you want to support the development of Cocoon, then I fully advise joining their Ko-Fi. It's a few quid a month and you get access to these early builds. I found that it was really difficult to set up with the latest version that's available publicly, just because a lot of these menus are kind of crushed and it cuts off a lot of the text. So obviously they've done some redesigns so it's more appropriate on a smaller screen. So do be aware of that, but rest assured that changes are coming and they are positive. So we also have this little app launcher built in, which gives us access to all our apps, which again does look great. Some of the text is a little bit cut off, but you can see enough of it that you know which app it is. So nothing too major, but just something to be aware of. Okay, next up we have Console Launcher. Not one of the most popular ones, but definitely one of the earliest ones, and it does look pretty decent. A lot of the features, however, are behind a paywall. This is just the free version, so when it comes to particularly a lot of the customization, if you want full access to it, then you need to cough up a few quid. So unfortunately, this little sidebar thing does kind of eat into the screen real estate, so you do get a lot of kind of cut off text here. But you can still see enough that you can hazard a guess at which game it is, and obviously you do have this lovely little artwork. You've got your retro achievements, so nice and easy to set up. Personally, I think it's worth the few quid. I have paid it, but I've not actually restored my purchase on this device. You've also got this app launcher here, which, again, very decent. You do get these nice kind of chunky buttons. However, you can still see there we've got some of the text being cut off, and you do have to, so you can swipe, but you don't kind of get all the apps like we did on Cocoon a moment ago. Okay, now we have Daijisho. Daijisho, very common, very popular, completely free. So it does require a little bit of manual setup. However, in terms of usability, it is incredibly user-friendly. It does look great, and it does look great especially on this little small screen. I have got a little a recent game there, so that does kind of eat in, but it just scrolls across, so perfectly usable. You can have widgets, so you can add, for example, we can have a little retro achievements widget, and then we can have, I can pin a game, so I can pin some hex in, so you've got your favorite games there. So looks great on the square display. The text is a decent enough size that it's perfectly readable, so it scales very well. And then for our app launcher, we've got a nice little scrollable menu. Text is big enough to read, and you're not losing a load of real estate. You can see a lot of apps on the screen at the same time. So Daijisho, not the most popular front end anymore. I think it's kind of been overtaken by the likes of things like Cocoon. However, solid and reliable. So ESDE, if you've seen my channel before, then you know that this is one of my absolute favourite front ends, purely because I've been using it in various forms for almost a decade, probably over a decade at this point. But the level of customization, the amount of power in there, it is fantastic. It is still missing retro achievements though, so minus points for that. So this is the MINUI menu theme. So you get almost like we had with Cannoli, this like little simple menu. We can go in. But the reason I like this theme in particular for this device is because it is just very, very simple. You get all the power and usability of ESDE with a very simplistic front end. Now, obviously, if you want to change the theme, I've got a few installed here, so we can take a look at things like Artbook next and see how that looks. Again, looks great on this square display. All the themes all look great in ESDE, and yeah, I actually really like this one. I might keep this one, actually. There's so much choice with the SDE, so it can lead to option paralysis, unfortunately, but that's a very much a first world problem. So ESDE, the king. But will it be the king by the end of this video? Stay tuned. Okay, next up, iisu. Now, iisu took the world by storm when it was originally announced. However, it does seem to have gone through a little bit of a turbulent time in development, but it's definitely on its way to greatness. So you can see here already, not really designed for a screen of this size. Obviously, it is still in active development, as a lot of these apps are, and they are really prioritizing a dual screen experience over the single screen. So it's kind of usable. It's just everything's a little bit crammed. You can see at the top there that you can't really see the name of the game because of the way the text is cut off. So not ideal, not great. I do know that they are working on some single screen features, although the back button doesn't want to let me go back. So there we go. I'm not really sure what happened there. So we also have these notifications at the side when I press the right button. And then you've got your online friends. As you can see, I've not connected it to Discord to hide the fact that I actually don't have any. So usable, not ideal. The games list looks okay. Haven't scraped any of these yet, but you get the little box arts. But like I said, you've really lost a lot up here with that text. So unfortunately, still a way to go for iisu. Next up, we have Neostation. Now this is one I showcased quite recently. It's still a relatively new front end in the grand scheme of things. I love what they're doing so far. I am very excited to see how it progresses. So big chunky box art I absolutely love, and then when you go into the games it's teeny weeny. So unfortunately I don't know if you can actually customize the the font size. I don't remember seeing the option to. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like. If I am incorrect, then please do let me know in the comments. One thing I do like, however, is you can change the view. You can have this grid mode. However, I think on a screen like this, the carousel does work better. Maybe if I try, can I change the game view? So I can't seem to see a way to change the font size. However, I might be missing something. And also I can't see a way to change the layout on the games list. However, like I said, still a relatively new front end in the grand scheme of things. So not one I'll be using for this device, although on the Odin, I think this is absolutely fantastic. Very excited about the future of Neostation, but I am due for an eye test, and given how small some of this text is, I think I might fail it. Okay, next up we have Retrohrai, which I always think is a little bit of an underdog of the Android front ends. It's got its fans, but it's very much a cult classic. So it looks great. You get features like this random game button. If I press L1, it will pick a random game for me. And then, oh, I didn't know. It's just going to boot straight into Zoo Action Puzzle Game. I'll have a blast of that in a bit. So, really good layout. I've not customized Game Boy Color for some reason. Very easy to use. Only downsides are, for example, if I click into a console, you can see there's a hotkey there for your retro achievements. However, it's mapped to the L3 button, which, for those of you who are visually impaired, this device does not have an L3 button. So I don't know if there's a way to remap it. Also, I didn't mention this, but in Cocoon as well, normally if you click your L3 button, you can change the size of the grid. I can't see a way to do that without clicking that button, and the same goes for this. But like I said, these were not designed with this screen size in mind. So the fact they work as well as they do with very limited attention paid towards a perfectly square handheld, then fair enough. So this is Retrohrai, and it's the one I always advise that people who are new to emulation start with, just because very, very easy to use, gives you a lovely feature-rich experience, but without a lot of bloat. So there we are. That was just a quick look at some Android front ends and how they work on the Anbernic RG Rotate, especially that small square screen. A little bit of an odd form factor, but something I'm having a lot of fun with. But enough about me. What was your favourite? Have you ordered the Anbernic RG Rotate? If you already have one, is there a front end you're already using? Has this video changed your mind? Whatever your opinions, please drop a comment below, let me know. Have I missed one? Please let me know in the comments. As always, if you like this video, then I would very much appreciate a like and a subscribe. It really helps the channel. Tell your friends, and I will see you next time.